Nine Perfect Strangers is a 2018 novel by the divine Liane Moriarty. It is now also a miniseries on Hulu, the final episode of which will be airing today. Now, the thing about movie and TV adaptations is that sometimes there's a need to make drastic changes from the source material. Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility has been adapted numerous times, best of which, to my mind, was in 1996 by Emma Thompson. She won an Oscar for that adaptation because adapting Sense and Sensibility was particularly tricky because so much of the book was exposition. It was the internal thoughts of the Dashwood girls and commentary on what was going on in London and the customs of the time thanks to the narrator. The action itself was kind of slim, so Emma Thompson had to rework a lot of things to make both a faithful adaptation of the book, which she did, and an engaging film to watch, which she also did. Nine Perfect Strangers suffers from the same problem in terms of, shall we say, not action-oriented source material. And although I haven't yet seen the final episode of the miniseries, I don't think this adaptation will be winning any awards, especially in the faithfulness department. After the success of Big Little Lies, which is another adaptation of Liane Moriarty's books, which was fantastic, by the way, and I recommended that one, is very faithful and is thoroughly enjoyable to watch. It's on HBO Max. Nicole Kidman's production company sought out another one of Moriarty's books to adapt, because why not? I mean, they're all wonderful and, it seems like people like them. But why, oh why, they chose Nine Perfect Strangers of all of her books, I will never know, because nothing happens in this book. Seriously. Not even Moriarty's uncanny ability to make charmingly real characters jump off the page as if they were your next door neighbor, even that couldn't have saved this book. It didn't make it interesting. It was just nothing happens. And just to be clear, this isn't a review video, so I'm not going to be going plot by plot point, letting you know exactly what happens and why it did or didn't work. This video is more about the balance of action and exposition in character-driven novels, and by extension, their TV adaptations, which is extremely important. Even if you write literary novels or other low-stakes genres like chick lit or sweet romance, which is very popular among some of my clients, ensuring your characters are engaged in action at the right moments is crucial. To demonstrate what I mean, let's look at a very high-level description of Nine Perfect Strangers, the novel. I would say that this has spoilers, but nothing happens in this book, so there's no such thing as spoilers. The book takes place at a luxury spa called Tranquillum House, and nine strangers alluded to in the title are Masha, the enigmatic owner and therapist. She used to be a classic workaholic, but after suffering from a heart attack, she left her high-powered career and basically became a whole new person, one dedicated to helping others. Or so she says. Lars is a single, gay, newly single, divorce attorney. Ben and Jessica are a married couple who were working class, but then they won the lottery, after which Jessica became an Instagram model and had several plastic surgery procedures, which Ben did not approve of. And Ben became obsessed with luxury cars, turning away from his wife. They're going to Tranquillum House for marriage counseling. The Marconi family, Heather, Napoleon, and their daughter Zoe, are grieving the loss of Zoe's twin brother, who recently passed away of self-deletion. Carmel is a newly divorced woman with severe body image issues, and she goes to the spa looking for help with weight loss, although that's not really an issue she should be contending with. Tony is a former rugby player dealing with depression, and Frances is a novelist who was dropped by her publishing company and duped by an online romance scam in short succession. Over the course of the book, we get to know these characters through a huge amount of exposition, as well as some scenes of one-on-one therapy sessions with Masha and some conversations among the patients with one another. Then, at the end, there's a joint therapy session where Heather, who has a nursing background, she's the grieving mother, if you recall, she's able to determine by the way that she feels and the way that her family members are acting that she and the rest of the guests have been drugged against their will. She is extraordinarily angry. Girlfriend has a temper, which I respect, but Masha, who has been revealed through exposition and flashbacks to be a huge control freak and with something of a god complex, she bristles at being challenged. She tells them it's good for them. This is the best because she knows best. They don't. And she locks them all in the room where they can ride out their psychotropic trip together. just, if this ever happened to me, the police would have been called, but not for the reasons it was in the book. Anyway, each has their private trip where they confront their own insecurities and flaws, ultimately emerging wiser and more unified. Obviously, they are not happy with Masha and call the police to report that she drugged them. That is a crime, if you didn't know, both here and in Australia, where the book takes place. And though she does get in some trouble, it's really not that big of a thing. At the end of the book, Masha actually appears on TV advertising her top secret courses on an Oprah-like show. And of course, her courses include microdosing, which she's open about now. The legal action that she suffered really only raised her profile, which is kind of awful, but okay. Ben and Jessica got divorced on good terms, as while they were high, they had separate but equal hallucinations that helped them realize they had grown into incompatible people. The Marconi family seems to heal from their collective grief. They talk about it more. Heather can sleep through the night. Napoleon actually enters therapy instead of stuffing his emotions down, which, again, I relate. And Carmel befriends her husband's new wife, appreciating that her presence means that her own tasks as a mother of two busy girls with lots of activities are virtually cut in half. This woman isn't trying to steal her children. She's just helping in a way. Carmel feels like she got a new wife out of the deal. Lars decides he's open to having a child with his boyfriend, Ray. That was the reason why they broke up, and Lars was newly single when he arrived at Tranquillum. So all in all, happy ending, especially for Francis and Tony, who ended up getting married. But that's it. That's the book. Someone read that and said, yeah, that would make a good 8-part miniseries. In my career as a freelancer, I've been tasked with converting novels into screenplays before, and it is always a pain, even if the book is very tightly plotted and you can almost do a shot-for-shot, reformatting in the script. It's still always hard. But this, if they'd handed me this and said, make a script out of this, I might have had to cry uncle, and just literally cry. But you know what? These are Hollywood people and there's money to be made. So someone took up the challenge and tried to make it work. So how did they do it? How did they take a whole novel full of people sitting in silence and thinking about their insecurities and turn it into a series, which by its very nature is driven by dialogue and action? It should go without saying that a few changes were made. For one, they made Tony into an OxyContin addict and made detoxing a part of his storyline. They also made him into a football player instead of rugby, because here in the US, we're not about that rugby life. They changed Masha's heart attack into being shot by an unknown assailant in a parking lot, something that is flashed back to multiple times. Ben and Jessica remain largely the same as people, but they're weirdly ignored in this series. I thought they were the most interesting people in the book and very real. But in the series, they're kind of ignored, and they seem to be becoming closer throughout the show rather than realizing they're no longer a good match like they did in the book. The Marconis are also pretty much the same, but they have a much more prominent role for reasons that I won't spoil here. And Michael Shannon as Napoleon is just, everything he does is wonderful. Love him. Love Michael Shannon, even if he is terrifying.
It's a total disaster! Like when the fat man tried to keep Michael Shannon from going insane!
Meadows, snowflakes, breeze through a cornfield, a soaring bird, rain on a metal roof.
Hey, Peter, I'm gonna need you to fill out your time card.
Yeah, sure, I'll have it by the end of the day. It's okay. We'll hire new people and start again tomorrow.
Lars's character remains the same, but his profession changes. In the book, he's a divorce attorney, and he only represents women who have been cheated on by their husbands. And he takes great pride in sticking it to unfaithful husbands in court. And this is due to, trauma that he experienced as a child and what happened to his mother after his father left her. In the show, however, he's a reporter, specifically an investigative reporter, and he's at Tranquillum House to investigate Masha. So that was some drama injected early, but then it fell flat because Masha knew the whole time. She doesn't care that he's a reporter, and she actually facilitates him, making recordings because she wants to be famous and she thinks that, she's doing the right thing here. So I guess. Okay, I mean, she could have given a cell phone to any one of the guests. It's whatever, it's fine. The weirdest decision, at least for me, was what they did to Carmel, played by the glorious Regina Hall. This was so out of left field for me. I had a hard time understanding what I was seeing. So when Regina Hall came on the screen, I know her as an actress, I've seen her in many other things. It took me a second to register that she was playing Carmel because she was so different. In the book, she was really relatable to the book's target audience, me. Women over 35 who, unlike me, have maybe had children and are struggling to accept the changes in their bodies as a result, and maybe having a low-grade body dysmorphia, seeing flaws that don't exist. In the show, Carmel is, dude, she is unhinged, okay? This is not a normal thing. And Regina Hall does a fantastic job of making it clear right off the bat that she is white-knuckling it through life. She is plastering on a fake, friendly demeanor to cover the depression and absolute rage roiling just under the surface. It is made very clear that all is not well with her, like right off the bat. I think the show is worth watching, so I'm not going to spoil it in its entirety. I'm not going to analyze exactly what they did with the different characters. And plus, I haven't seen the final episode yet, so I can't, render a firm verdict on whether these changes were worth the risk. But in an attempt to make the story more of a story, instead of just a character study, which was the correct thing to do, the scriptwriters, to my mind, overstepped. The source material is largely women's fiction, and so it doesn't demand a great deal of action. You didn't need to make these huge changes. Only small changes were needed to make the series a success. Instead of making those small changes, the writers decided to turn this into a thriller. They changed the whole genre, which in essence is changing the story and the meaning of it. You have mysterious text messages making death threats. You have threats scrawled on blood on the walls. Okay, you guys, I don't think that's been done in real life since the Helter Skelter nonsense. So this is what we're doing. We're invoking Manson in what's supposed to be women's lit. I mean, have you read Liane Moriarty? Who are you targeting with this? So when you're writing a book largely driven by character development, it can be all too easy to make it mostly exposition and conversation, the way Moriarty did in the book. So I get why changes needed to be made. Likewise, you have the problem of being so terrified of being boring that you overcorrect and end up with nonsensical melodrama full of characters behaving in ways that don't make sense for the characters as you've set them up or don't make sense for the genre that you're writing. And that's what they did in the show. A good rule of thumb is to alternate action scenes with exposition scenes. If you're using a program like Scrivener with a corkboard view, this can be really simple to track through color coding. Or you can just use good old-fashioned index cards where you write the name of the scene and what happens in it and then highlight it based on the color of what happens in the scene. Does this actually involve your characters doing something? Which scenes are conversation-based? And which scenes are your main character sitting in a room thinking about stuff? Remembering things past as she looks in the mirror or at a picture, seeing a young child on the street and having her mind race back to that day of winter's first snow. If you have a whole bunch of those scenes in a row, ask yourself, do you need to? Could one of those thinking sessions be changed into an actual conversation? Could one of those memories drive your MC to go on a mini adventure to seek out answers to a question? Don't fall into the trap of letting your whole book be the MC thinking about stuff and feeling stuff and then having the conclusion of the book being his or her decision to think and feel different stuff. If you're a thriller or a mystery writer, you might be hate watching this video right now, wondering what in the world I am on about. But women's fiction and literary fiction are very much their own thing, with their own set of common bad habits in their writers. Even among bestsellers, apparently. So as you're watching 9 Perfect Strangers, and I do recommend it, by the way, it's a good watch, even if you haven't read the book, consider why the writers went in the direction they did. As for me, my verdict is that it was changed for broader appeal, specifically to get some more of the menfolk into the viewing audience, because when you look at the readership of Liane Moriarty, we'll just say it leans female. If you read the book and watched the series, tell me your thoughts below about the creative choices that the writers make. And as always, give this video a like, share, and subscribe to make the algorithm love me as much as you do. I'll be talking about Dune next month, so be sure to come back for that. That book is a chonker, and I am struggling, you guys. So that's all for this week. Until next time, take care and write well.